Hello and welcome to the final episode of my podcast, Not Just Another Fangirl. This is my final episode, at least for now, but this will be my conclusion episode. We'll be giving a recap of facts, giving a conclusion, and I'll be overall summarising my ideas on how feminism has changed in the music industry. I'll kind of go chronologically with a few points I'm going to talk about. So starting off with Dolly. I find Dolly, from my research, is almost slightly reluctant to talk about feminism, or at least address it in that sense. She totally speaks about it and has these views. She just doesn't almost want to acknowledge that that's what these views are, that's where they come from, so on and so forth. She's got quite a few, loads even, of out there songs. Family, Just Because I'm a Woman, 9 to 5, that all express these equal rights lyrics about gender equality, marriage equality, racial equality, all these things that are important to speak about. I think she seems to be, as I said, reluctant to address it as what it is. And I think, as previously mentioned, this has a lot to do with when she was born. Her viewpoints are really, really far forward, really progressive for someone who was born in her generation. The things she was saying in song lyrics when she was releasing them in the 60s is nuts, that she was saying these ideas that people just were so previously afraid to talk about. She's clearly inspired so many people to continue. Moving on to Alanis, I think she's definitely more open. You see a clear difference between the two. She's more open, she addresses it in speeches, she uses words such as feminist and feminism to describe her viewpoints. She's not afraid to talk about it. And then I think the difference for her music is that I think, to me, it's a lot more about the presentation of the music. Things such as album covers, the way she dresses, the sound of the music, the way she sings. It wasn't typical. It links into what people consider that female rage again. Then moving finally to Taylor Swift, she's clearly a huge difference from Dolly. She's really progressive, really constantly trying to challenge her own viewpoints, move forward, improve them, help people talk about it. And I think her progression as a singer as well impresses me, because when she first started performing, she wouldn't really talk about these things, but now she does, and she's so open about it. I think it's really cool to see how people themselves can change rather than just overall from decade to decade. When it comes to music, I think she definitely experiments a lot more. She's got more open and blatant lyrics, especially in recent years. Her music videos are impactful. Even just the general topics of songs that she discusses are things that not everybody would talk about. There's certain topics people often write songs on, but Taylor seems to always venture into different ways of experimenting with different topics and ideas. I'll now compare this to my primary research that I did. I did a survey-based interview with a lady named Jess T, who is a presenter, promotee, and host and singer. And as a singer, I can quite easily compare these results with my secondary research on my other artists. Jess has been in the industry roughly similar time to my artists, around 30 years. For each artist, that's quite similar. They've all had quite long careers in the industry. They've totally got so many chances for having similar experiences. Jess talked about how, as a presenter, it's a really male-dominated industry, so it shows just how difficult it is to be a female presenter, and the fact that she can acknowledge that shows she can then build on this. It's similar to Taylor Swift. She says that she has to work so much harder to get just as much credit as a man would for the same job as well, and I think you have to make an effort to be listened to and heard, and that is difficult. And I think it's important that we acknowledge how much harder people are trying. Taylor Swift mentions in one interview about how many times she's changed the way she looks, the way she's written an album, every kind of aesthetic, just so that she can stay relevant. Jess also mentioned that she dresses how she wants, speaks her mind, and she's not afraid to address the gender inequality. And I think that's really important to me because I found similar in both sections of my research that it's often empowering for people to step out there and not follow the norm, just as well as other people seem to find this easiest in dressing the way that they like. And I think that's important because it's a really easy way of expressing yourself is just wearing the clothes you feel comfortable in. And I think it's important people address gender inequality because it spreads awareness. The more you can educate people, you don't even have to tell them your opinion's right, you don't even have to convince them it's right, but if you spread awareness and educate people, I think that's really important. And I think the final thing she says that stood out to me was, you just got to be brave. You've got to stand out there. And I think the idea that these opinions are considered brave is something that shouldn't have to be brave or strong. It should just be normal and it shouldn't be dangerous. But I do think standing out against it does happen to be a brave and bold move, and it should be celebrated. I really look up to people who are out there doing new things and correcting people when things go wrong. That's where I'm gonna conclude this episode. This is obviously the end of my podcast so far. If you have enjoyed or at least learned something, I'd love to hear everything you've got to say, positive, constructive, anything. Really appreciate you listening. And if you've got this that far, thank you so much for listening. And I hope to see you some other time.